Lolo Isaiah Opuende has dismissed an invitation from Governor Siminialayi Fubara for a meeting at Government House, Port Harcourt. In an online video, Opuende stated that it was time for the governor to day his day, that is, be on his own, while the lawmakers would do the same. Representing Harcourt constituency 2, Opuende recalled that when the political crisis began, their principal had warned that a time would come for both sides to go their separate ways. He also questioned the mode of invitation transmission, arguing that it was not feasible for lawmakers to honor the governor's request. How can you write a letter to the government, to the House of Assembly, and put it on social media and expect talks to come? The governor should write us the proper way, he said. Earlier yesterday, Governor Fubara had invited the Right Honorable Martins Amehule, Earlier yesterday, the governor had invited the Right Honorable Martins Amehule, State House of Assembly, to a meeting at the Government House on Monday, following pressure from the lawmakers. The invitation comes after the 48-hour ultimatum issued by the Assembly for the governor to present the 2025 budget expired. A letter dated 9th March signed by Secretary to the State Government, Dr. Tammy Danagogo, and addressed to Speaker Amehule stated that the governor had received the Supreme Court judgment and was ready to meet with the legislators. The agenda includes discussion on providing a befitting space for assembly sittings, payment of outstanding allowances, budget presentation, and other relevant issues. The meeting was scheduled for Monday, 10th March at 10 a.m. at the governor's office in Port Harcourt. The Assembly had earlier demanded that the governor present the 2025 budget and issued another ultimatum for him to sack commissioners and board members not screened by the House. It also summoned the chairman of the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission to appear before it. Ndamzi, what do you make of this story?
Thank you very much, Laurentia. You see, in resolving conflicts, parties must be ready to shift grounds. Yes, because if you hold on to what has led to the disagreement, there won't be any form of moving forward peacefully, because parties are already aggrieved earlier before the Supreme Court gave its verdict on the matter. So the only thing left now for peace to be achieved in our state is simple. The governor at this time should shift grounds. Why do I say this? I say this because official communication to the House of Assembly shouldn't be first of all read on the social media. That's an insult to that institution. We have 3 arms of government. There are 3 arms of government as specified by the Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria. So if an arm is communicating the order, it should pass through proper channels of communication. You cannot imagine the Speaker of a House of Assembly, whether Rivers State or not, sending an invitation to the governor of a state via social media. That's an insult. That's an aberration. So the governor, some persons have argued that the governor ought to have signed the letter himself, but to me, I don't find that a disturbing position at all. The secretary to the state government, it's an appointee of the government. And one of the duties of the SLG is official communications like that. That's why you see in civil service communication, you usually see the letter begin with, "I am directed." So if the SLG had written that letter and passed through the proper channel of communicating the House of Assembly by either domiciling that letter with the clerk of the Assembly, receiving an acknowledged copy, then they can circulate it in social media. The one I personally saw on Facebook wasn't an acknowledged copy. It was a direct copy sent by the SIG. The assembly have argued that they didn't receive a copy from the government, that they only saw it on social media and other handles. So in my opinion, in my view, I think the channel of communication is the problem. Whether or not the governor have not honored the invite from the House of Assembly, but the man have set out, he has begun, after studying the CTC, he has, begun implementing that judgment, but the approach is wrong.
He started implementing Supreme
Court judgment with the local government.
He started implementing before citing the CTC.
Yes, of course, he began that. Okay, having received the CTC now, the onus is on him to do the needful by honoring the invitation of the House of Assembly. Even though the budget is not ready, there should be communication. There should be communication. Nothing stops the governor to asking the HSSG, please write the assembly on my behalf. Tell them that within so time and so time, we will present the budget. There is nothing wrong in doing that. But sending a letter to the assembly via social media, it is an aberration and an insult to the legislative house.
Okay, now the legislatures, well, when you say the SSG writing to the assembly, there is nothing wrong with that. I understand that point. But now there is need for reconciliation. And these are people that you recall that the governor made some very strong statements about. For example, when he called them boys, that he was paying the school fees of their children and all of that. And again, when he said that he gave them a floating and that they were existing because he chose to recognize them, and that if he stops to recognize them, they will cease to exist. Now, in line with certain statements that the governor has made, and also considering disobedience to the High Court judgment, also disobedience to the Appeal Court judgment. I don't know if you remember, but Appeal Court gave judgments upholding the High Court judgment and ordering the governor to present the budget to Martin Samehule, Rivers State House of Assembly. The next day, the governor presented the budget to Okojombo, faction of Friends. Now, one would say, when you look at the sequence, all these things have happened. When the governor tells the SSG to write, but you can also cite other letters that the governor wrote himself to people who are not even high up there, like the House of Assembly. One would say, is that conciliatory enough? Now, the governor is right now he's in a precarious position. He needs to negotiate his way out of this. That's a fact. He needs to negotiate his way out of this. He needs to pursue ADR to see a way a soft landing can be given to him. Don't you think writing that letter and personalizing it, writing a personalized letter of some sort, right, will be more convincing? Considering again that while the governor is sending invitation to the House of Assembly, the commissioners of the governor on one hand are suing the House of Assembly. Aren't these things, are they not kind of complicated, and it will send mixed signals? Do you think that reconciliation can be achieved with this kind of mixed signals?
Yes, thank you. You see, like I said before, in conflict resolution, what parties stand to achieve is basically peace, basically out-of-court settlement, cutting off excesses, baggages that would have ordinarily lingered in court. Because when matters are lingering in court, there are so many consequences. Faces are lost, relationships shattered, time spent, money wasted, and all that. So, to cut off all that, and also considering the fact that this has to do with our dear River State, the Rivers indigents are the ones suffering it now. Because the leaders, they don't care as far as I'm concerned. They don't even know what the people out there are suffering. What they care is we are fighting for our own personal gains, even though there might be group interest. Parties at this point should hold back and shield their sword. This is not a time to start looking at the wounds. What led to us having wounds? Okay? But it is time for healing. It is a time for reconciliation. It is a time to making amends for the interest and posterity of Rivers State. Okay? It is not a time to start looking at who was offended,
but don't you
who was the offender.
Don't you think in pursuing peace, one should be seen in body language and actions to be willing?
Yes, of course.
Don't you think the body language should tally with what the person is saying? Considering again that there was a peace pact that was brokered once that couldn't hold water because of trust deficit. How do you see this playing out at the end of the day?
You see, the bitter truth in this instance is that relationships have broken and faces have lost. Okay? Trust also is broken. All right? So the Rivers State House of Assembly, not just the Rivers State House of Assembly, the House of Assembly, as enshrined in 1999 Constitution, have the powers to invite the governor or any appointee of the government at any instance, okay, and not the other way round as enshrined in the Constitution. The governor does not have...
It means that this invitation by the governor to the lawmakers, and
it is not constitutional, but it is not constitutional, but there is nothing wrong
with it
in a situation where we want to achieve a reasonable feat. There is nothing wrong in the governor extending a hand, olive branch to the assembly, say, oh, guys, can we talk? Please, can we talk tomorrow? But what matters is the channel of communication. The channel of communication was wrong.
So does,
the channel of communication...
Does that to you actually signify genuineness?
No, in my opinion, I think something is still sketchy.
Okay.
Because if His Excellency is honest enough and sincere enough to making peace, there is nothing even wrong in him raising his phone personally and call Martins. Say, my speaker, you guys have won now, but the winning is the interest of the state. Can we talk? Can we talk? Can we sit? There is nothing wrong in that. But to asking the SLG to write the letter, you did not even pass the letter properly. You did not even communicate them properly, either through the clerk of the house or any principal member of the house. You sent the letter to the social media. Okay? To me, I consider it very, very wrong. Very wrong and irresponsible of the government at this time. Because what we are looking at this point is how to mitigate whatever be the effect of that judgment. Because as far as I'm concerned, Rivers people are suffering it now. Salaries are not paid. The economy is put to on hold. So the government need to act fast.
All right.
People out there are misled. Some are acting of emotion. Oh, they will say, oh, the Supreme Court did not consider the poor masses. The Supreme Court did not consider the civil servant. But the question should be put otherwise. The governor should be encouraged to make hay while the sun shines. There is nothing wrong in him gathering his team, knowing that the Supreme Court have ordered the representation of this budget. There is nothing wrong in the governor, ab initio, gathering his team, revisiting that budget, prepare it, possibly communicate the assembly, informing them of a timeline wherein he intends to submit the budget. But he kept mute and dancing around the law. It is very wrong. I think the governor is still being misled. From day one, we have said it here that he is ill-advised. The governor at this point should see reasons not just with what the assembly is telling, but with what Rivers people, the implication of that judgment on the Rivers people. He should see reasons with us.
All right, very well. Also joining me on Open Conversation to do justice to River State crisis is a regular on Open Conversation, a stakeholder in APC and the leader of ICU Group. His name is Chizi Nyomasila. Chizi, good morning and welcome.
Good morning. I'm sorry I came very...
It's fine. Chizi, what is your take on this story, the lawmakers dismissing the governor's invitation for a meeting?
You know, firstly, let me say that I wouldn't say... Let me say it bluntly.
Go ahead.
Have you seen in this country or in every part of the world where the president or the governor is writing the National Assembly to come for a meeting? How? The meeting of the National Assembly and the governor has always been informal. If there's anybody that should meet with, if he has to meet with the National Assembly, or in the case of our estate now, the governor, is the governor going to the house? The only letter that will have to be communicated from the office of the governor to the house, irrespective of who has authored that letter or who has signed that letter for the governor, is for the governor to say, I am coming to address you in your preliminary this day or that day. But to write them an official letter and giving them an agenda or what he wanted to discuss, and look at how funny those agendas are. Number one is to talk about their allowances and salary, that is their right. Number two is to talk about where they will going to sit. Is it in the power of the governor to tell them where to sit? Secondly, and then you begin to talk about the presentation of 2025 project that you've been called to come and submit and present. So I think the governor is, like my colleague said when I came in, he said the governor is ill-advised. I can say that I have stayed in government for some times, and I know that what the politicians have mastered the act of advising you in your way, in your body language. So it's not about being ill-advised. So most times you see them advising you on what they believe that the other kind of things is what you want to do. If not, you came and accepted it, you said, wow, whether he accepted it or not, he came and addressed the state and said, oh, that we've heard the Supreme Court judgment and that this is what we're going to do. And of course, the Supreme Court in that judgment also asks you to present your budget, 2024 budget. These people came and gave you a leave and asked you to submit 2025 budget, because the 2024 budget will bring a lot of crisis. Yeah. So they said, no, while we are doing this, you can begin to call on that. And they said, okay, bring 2024 or 25 budget and submit it. The highest I would have done, the communication would have been, oh, please, allow me maybe 4 days more, you know, so that I can submit that budget. Instead, you are asking your commissioners to go to court against the legislative process. I mean, commissioners that were not, God forbid, I call them commissioners. People, part of your aides to say, look, we can be screened by the court, to ask the RISEC to stop them from doing their process. And then you're inviting them to a meeting. Which meeting are you inviting them to? To do what in the meeting? Like he said, I was thinking that he would call Right Honorable Martin Samuel and say, well, guy, this thing is gone. I mean, I went to court to seek for a proper interpretation of what has happened, and now the court has interpreted it in this light. Let us work together. And then you go and present this whole thing, informal things. People think that governors and legislators meet. In some cases, they meet on a weekly basis. But those are not formal meetings, because we are not even supposed to know in the first instance that they are meeting. Because there's supposed to be independence of the three arms of government. But to tell that it's like the governor writing the judiciary, say, please come, the ruling you are going to give tomorrow, I want to meet with you on that. I mean, what is that? So you can't do that. I don't know who are advising him or how he is also taking his own advice. But I can tell you that if there's anybody who does not want peace in Rivers State, is the governor. If there's anybody who wants the Rivers State people to suffer, the civil servants to suffer, is the governor. These people have said we have considered this because of the people, so we can do something, because they can't do anything. Even they cannot ask the Supreme Court to go ahead and release money without an appropriation. So meaning that they were even ready to do a speedy kind of hearing to be able to pass the budget, which would have been okay for you. But he didn't take those budget. For me, he would have been the first person who would write them to say, I'm coming to meet. And let me tell you, when people talk about where the assembly sits where the assembly has decided to sit. So if the assembly decides to sit in the Ikore local government, that becomes the assembly until otherwise stated. Because the place they were supposed to sit legally was brushed down, and they wanted to go and sit like the forum sat in government house. My brother, what is that? So I don't know where he's coming. I don't know whether he is here to alleviate the suffering of Rivers State, or he wants crisis and needed an excuse. He's an accountant. Maybe he's looking for an excuse to continue to do what he's doing.
Now, one of the items on the list for conversation is the presentation of the 2025 budget, like the governor said earlier.
Yes. So I'm asking now. They asked you to present the budget, and you said one of the lists. Those are informal things. That's what they call executive lobby. You don't do it by writing them. Imagine that you are bringing a bill that the people will give assent to, and then you are writing and telling the public that you are writing them to come and discuss the bill. So they should come up to your house to discuss the bill that they are supposed to vet. What have you to compromise?
So if I get the point you're making, Chizzy, what you're saying is that particular meeting was not necessary.
It was not.
In the sense that, number one, the agenda doesn't make sense to you because discussing their remuneration and their outstanding allowances is what is entitled to them by rights.
No discussion.
So there was no discussion needed. He should pay it. Then the other one, with respect to their legislative sitting, where they sit for their legislative process, you're saying that it is not within the governor's constitutional powers to give them a place to legislate. Is that correct?
Yes.
I will find out from Ndamze. And then the third one, which is the budget, you said that the governor has been written to present the budget, so there was no need. But if there was need for a conversation, it should be informal.
Purely informal.
And if it's an informal conversation like this one, you said this one is not this invitation is not constitutional. And Ndamze have said the same. So it should have been more of a lobby, an informal thing, and not trying to give an informal event a formal connotation. That's what you're trying to say. All right, very well. Ndamze, I will come to you again. First of all, constitutionally, is the governor constitutionally empowered to give the State House of Assembly a place for their sittings?
Thank you very much. Like we opined before here, there are three arms of government, okay, and the Constitution rightly said it that there shall be a House of Assembly of a state, okay, and earlier before now, this House of Assembly of a state have their place of plenary, where they sit and discharge their legislative functions, and moving forward, we knew what happened. We knew how that building was brought down with the excuse of government saying that it was not befitting for a House of Assembly, reasons best known to the government. Okay, now that that house is not befitting to sit according to Rivers State government, don't also forget that earlier before now there was serious fracas between these two arms of government. It is not the right of the governor, neither is it constitutionally empowered on the governor to provide a place of sitting for the assembly.
Okay.
The assembly decides where they will sit until an official place of plenary is provided by the state. That is the true position now.
Right.
Don't also forget that, like we said before, trust is broken. Okay, trust is broken. A lot have gone wrong. It is a time for healing, not time to show off or to display ego or to prove that you have pride. This is a time, like we said before, shield the sword, shift the grounds, so that Rivers people can have peace. Right. And believe me, we need to be very honest in laying out the perspectives in this matter. We are humans. We must be honest. Considering what has happened earlier before now, the more responsibility should be on the governor to reach out. Because this is a House of Assembly he never recognized. He said he will not recognize them, even when a court of competent jurisdiction said otherwise. He said he will not recognize them. No salaries were paid for a number of years. No emolument, no allowance, nothing. Then now, even the arbitration panel, that sat and led by Mr. President, gave an agenda for reconciliation. If he had an issue with that directive of that arbitration panel, what stops you from saying, oh, Mr. President, we are good with X, Y, Z, but we are not comfortable with this, sir. Can we make amends here? You accepted all, you signed all. Then you came back home, a group of advisors told you no, that the president cannot give such directive that is unlawful, that is unconstitutional. Then went to court to challenge the process and all that. Then now, the court they insisted on going has finally given an order, which is the final judgment of any court in Nigeria. Then now a group of persons are still opining that the president should step in. I mean, I look at it as a jamboree. That's a big joke in display. So the governor should be advised to reach out to the House of Assembly.
Informally?
On a formal, whether formal, informal, he should reach out. Like I said before,
what you're saying
on
is that
personal,
the onus lies on the governor,
on him now to reach out. Yes, of course.
Okay.
Not the other way around, because these persons are hot. Truth be told, they are hot. You deny them, what constitutionally they are empowered to receive over years, and now they have won in court. Do you expect them reaching out? No. Let's be factual. It's not possible.
All right.
He should reach out in the interest of peace in Rivers State.
All right. Still talking about where the lawmakers are supposed to sit and legislate, and the governor say, trying to reach out in order to probably offer alternate accommodation for their sittings. You recall one of the prayers granted in Justice Omotosho's judgment that the Supreme Court, at the end of the day, that is still standing. One of the things Justice Omotosho said was that the governor cannot interfere in any way, with their sitting, their plenary, the activities of the legislature. He actually barred the governor from doing that. And that judgment is still very much alive. Right, that judgment is still very much alive. And if the lawmakers even choose, let's not even to open, say, the Constitution, they can also leverage on the judgment of Justice Omotosho to turn down any form of interference on their own part from the governor.
Yes, of course. Even the Supreme Court in that judgment went ahead and said that they should sit unhindered.
Unhindered.
They can choose wherever they decide. Don't forget, like I said something here before. The Supreme Court also condemned the bringing down of the assembly. Yeah. They called it rascality. So that is to say, if the assembly is brought down, they don't have a place of legislation. They can assume any address.
As long as they form a quorum.
Yes, of course. They can assume any address to be Rivers State House of Assembly until the assembly is rebuilt completely. So for now, wherever they invite the governor, but in doing that, the place should have a proper address. The public should know that this is a temporary sitting location, because it is our building. It is a Rivers State House of Assembly. And the assembly doesn't belong to the 27 man. It belongs to Rivers State. So if they are sitting in Obiakpo local government, Rivers people have the right to know that from henceforth, moving forward, we are sitting here until our complex is rebuilt. So that address should also be communicated to the executive arm officially, that we are henceforth sitting here until otherwise provided.
Right.
Yes, at that point, the governor can officially visit them.
Okay, very well. Chizzy, what do you have to say before we move on to the next?
I just wanted to pick on what you said. You said well, the court, the motor court, gives them that privilege, even if it's not constitutional. And of course, he also added the fact that the Supreme Court added an impetus on that, on where they can sit. I can tell you that what the court did was to lift up a constitutional provision for that. Interference is not. You don't need a court to tell you that the executive does not need to interfere on the legislative process and all of that. You don't need a court. But what people see is, for over time, that people have enjoyed some robust relationship with executive. How they come about it is what you don't know. How they come about it.
The relationship between
them.
Assembly.
Let me tell you something. I used to think then, I was not with Wike, now that I'm with Wike now. I used to think that Wike was a boss man to this assembly. One of those days I went to look for Martin. Then Martin was leader of the house. So early morning Martin asked me to come, and I'm sure that if Martin gave me an appointment to see him by 6 a.m., that Martin couldn't have given me an appointment when he knows that the governor was going to be there. But when I got to the Martin's house, not his official residence, Martin told me I should meet him at Rubigwe. That means his place. When I went to Martin's house, that as early as 6 a.m., I saw batteries of, security. And I was like, is this what Martin uses as leader? And I was waiting, only for me to call him and say, I beg, Oga, come see me. Oh, Wike left his government house to see the leader that by the grace of God, that God used him to make assembly, to see him in his house. Those are the kind of relationship. Why would Wike leave? Maybe Wike is going to tell him, boy, I'm bringing this thing, people should know one or two things to do. I'm not saying that's what he did. But that relationship, you can visit somebody today and then do some mistakes. That's what people call mistakes, and then they will correct it. So this is what, and then that is Wike as their boss. Fubara is like their peers. Even though he's the governor, of course he used to respect the office of the governor.
But they used to be peers before him.
But they used to be peers. In fact, they were his boss. They weren't peers. As assembly member, they were boss to Accountant General of the state. They were his boss. He was answerable to them. In fact, they don't even invite him. They invite the Commissioner for Finance, who he will accompany, maybe carry his bag to see the assembly. Today you are governor, and then you became too much of a boss. I have said to people, when you give a poor man money, you spoil the poor man. That's just the problem. Because if not, you should have known that these people should be pally. And in fact, these people should have been more closer to you than even they were with Wike and Amechi. Because you are pallies. Oh boy, how far now? Make you pally this thing like this. Now, in the mix of apart from all of the things that you did while the case was in court, these were your friends. You didn't think of paying them and the allowances while the court is ongoing. No, you didn't think about that. That means you were wicked to them. I don't know what Martins are doing. I can't stand what they are doing. In fact, they are considering us more than that. You were so wicked. You know what that meant? What he wanted to do to them is that they shouldn't eat. Their families should die. And they spent money. And these were people who just came from the 2003 elections with the court. Their company court, the first court of first instance and appeal, the tribunal that they went, had spent money and borrowed money. And I know of my representative, Lemchi, Prince Lemchi. I knew what he suffered. In the midst of that, his wife died. The governor didn't visit him. They wrote the governor to say, one of us, our colleague, these people were contributing to 20,000, 30,000 to bury the wife of their colleague. So they didn't have money to do all of that. They didn't have money to eat for 1 year plus. And you were taking your own, paying illegally to other people. And today, you cannot call them that you want to discuss, like you want to dash them money. When the people are supposed to be demanding for some kind of interest on the money you owe them, that you were paying, you were taking out of the money that there was no appropriation, you were paying other people money, and you didn't pay them, nobody. We were supposed to ask, how are you paying a representative that we elected to meet you? What are we talking about? And they're looking at them. If these people were on personal vendetta, that's the first thing they would have been talking about. How did you pay money? How did you do this one? But they just said, no, bring this thing. Let us take it one after the other. Bring this thing. Let us allow Rivers people take their salaries, even though we were not paid salaries. These people were meeting. They've been meeting. Their allowances were not paid. And I think that this is one assembly that has sacrificed for the Rivers because they weren't paid. And by this, I think they have also showed us that we can have part-time assemblies who can do something and not be paid. Because this would have shown it. And they didn't compromise. Prince Lemchi was asked to be speaker because, of course, when this was defended, they bet him so that he would become speaker, so that the speaker would still come from Ikore. It was against the governor coming from the river line, the speaker, God forbid, the quote-unquote speaker, came from Bonnet. And then the deputy speaker is from their place. The leader is from, all of them are the same place. Probably speaking Ibane. And they are talking about this, they are talking about bias. So the guy said, no, I can't do that. That means when this thing happened, some of us went to Lemchi and said, guy, thumbs up. You would have taken 200 million, you would have been flying around and all of that. And he said, nah, supposing they ask me to pay back, where will I pay it back? You know, all of these things. So the governor didn't even do like somebody who these people before, even if we are having issues. What were did any of them sleep with his wife or did he sleep with their wife? It's just a matter of ideology. You know, this is what I think it is. We're in court. If you are in court, you pay them. You'll be paying their salary. Saraki wasn't on a good book with Buhari, but they didn't see their salary. They didn't see their salary. Of course, you know that they didn't want Saraki to be there. Code of Conduct Bureau was inviting Saraki, yet the salaries were prepaid. All of that, they didn't see that. But this one, you see that stop the other person like you're a military person. Like a dictatorship, you know, the dictator ruling them and telling them as if you're talking to your boys, you're 8, and now you're calling them to come and beg me. Let me tell you how much I'm going to give you. I see they don't know their allowances and salaries. When you're supposed to be paying with interest. You know what that means? And do you know what they're saying? You're also asking their dependent. You are telling their dependent to mount more pressure on them and calling them to discuss their allowance. So I'm going to pay the cumulative allowance. So go and mount pressure so that allowance will get. That's wickedness. How many people did you call to pay your own allowance? How many people did you call to pay the illegal commissioners you brought, the allowances? You bought them vehicle. Nobody's asking you after that. I have said it. I am waiting for Lemchi. Lemchi, hear me. I will call you. I will move for your recall. If you don't ask questions, what is that?
All right, Chizzy.